Hi, I'm Charlotte and this is Time Mama Tries to Read, and I've finally broken my fiction slump, so I'm really excited to tell you a couple of the books I've read. I've got some plans for July. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a TBR because we don't do so well with those here. But I've got buddy reads, so I always feel committed to a buddy read. I don't, apart from one that me and Sean stopped right from the get-go because we both realised the book wasn't any good. I don't think I've not complete. Oh, actually, no, I did actually. I did actually DNF one that I was doing with Brissa and Sean. So yeah, forget all I've said. Anything could happen. I was really chuffed with all the suggestions that I had for my last video about what I should read to sort of break this fiction slump, because I was reading loads of non-fiction and enjoying it, but I don't know, I should maybe have cut myself some slack and just not cared. But because I'm so used to reading fiction, it felt a bit weird to have not read any. So a couple of people suggested reading some young adult books, and that was a really good idea. So I resisted it at first, but then I was quite literally just sat picking up book after book. I was almost going to do a video on the books I started and haven't gone further than like 10 pages. And I might yet do that, because now I've rejected them once, I'm going to struggle to unreject them in the future, and I don't know what to do, because some of them were books I really wanted to read, but if they didn't grab me now, I kind of feel, how am I going to get back into them? So yeah, I might do a video on that. But eventually I settled on a book. Again, I was just, didn't have much high hopes for it, and it was amazing, and I more or less read it cover to cover in one sitting. I read a little bit in the day when Idris was about, and that wasn't, didn't get very far into it. And then in the evening, I just read the whole of the rest of it. I think if you want to set aside like a couple of hours, maybe a little bit more than 2 hours, you'd get through it. And it is so worth doing it. Sometimes with some books, they need their own time. And I think this was it. So it was this book, We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. I absolutely loved it, as you can tell. The book itself, let's just take a minute to appreciate how beautiful that is. Young woman stood on her bed in her bedroom, and then she's looking out to a snowy sea, and inside then you've got a little snowy landscape. This is because half of the book is kind of set reflecting back on a time where she lives. I want to say I know where on the coast she lives. She lives somewhere on the California. Okay, so she lives on the California coast amongst surfers and sort of cool places that you think of when you think of California. And then she goes to college in New York where it's snowing. So you've got these two quite different settings. And I won't give too much away, except to say that it is about grief. It's about loss on lots of different levels, really. It's about a kind of who you are as a person when you lose the people that you define yourself by, if that makes any sense. And it's just one of those rare objects in the world of books where I feel like it is perfect. And I don't necessarily mean it's going to be my book of the year or anything, but the experience of reading it was just absolutely perfect. And I found that the characters were really well drawn, the emotion was just right. The plot was enough to make you want to read and figure out what, there's an underlying secret going on. You want to read more, but it's not too plotty. And the end, although I was a little bit worried in the last sort of 30 pages that it was being dragged out, actually was bang on. When you actually get to the end, you're like, yeah, that makes complete sense to do that. I loved it. So I didn't conscientiously read this for Pride Month. I didn't do Pride Month because I never do any kind of monthly or weekly reading challenges, because I just find that I'm not good at sticking to them once I've set them, and I find it really depressing when I don't meet the TBR that I've set. But actually this would have fitted in really good for Pride Month. The lead character in this is I believe she's gay, but she could be bisexual. It's not made clear, but there's a lot of fluidity going on with several of the characters. And I believe Nina LaCour is lesbian. She thanks her wife in it. So yeah, it's just awesome. I would definitely recommend that you pick it up. and read it. And then also accidentally timing with the Pride Month theme, I read Tales of the City. So I've seen this throughout my whole bookselling career and never really thought to pick it up, but something drew me to it. I was in a bookshop last week, a real life bookshop, and they had it on their Pride display. So if you don't know the background to it, it's set in San Francisco in the 80s. It's very tongue-in-cheek, but also really deals with really serious issues. Very much about the gay scene in San Francisco and how the straight-laced Mary Ann Singleton, who's moved from Cleveland, how she sort of encounters all of these diverse characters that she's not been accustomed to in her previous life. So, and all the characters to some extent or another are kind of hiding from small town parents and families and living quite outrageous but very fun lives in San Francisco. Fun for the most part. There's a lot of depressed people in this book that are not finding what they want from life and are having quite meaningless relationships that are making them sad. So there is that, but it's never sort of dwelt upon. I didn't feel depressed reading it at all. I felt sad at times. It's very well done. The ending is really, really well done. But I just was really shocked at how open and accepting, at least the world, the small world of Mary Ann Singleton. I'm not suggesting that gay people or anybody LGBT in San Francisco in the 80s had just a total plain sailing life. But the acceptance within the communities that are being portrayed closely here is astonishing compared to my experience of Wales in the 90s. Really far behind Wales is in comparison to this. I can see why people flock to San Francisco in order to explore their sexualities and their identities. And just generally, I really love the book. The chapters are really short, and about halfway through that started to get on my nerves a little bit because I just felt like I was dipping in and then dipping out into the next one because it follows several people's lives. Although Mary Ann Singleton is kind of the glue that holds it all together, you're going into a lot of the other characters' lives, and I did feel a bit spun around, but I think that was just I think that's partly just my taste. Actually, halfway through, once I'd sort of gone, oh, it's a bit annoying, but I got to deal with it, I forgot about it. And actually, when you've got a small person running around, it's a lot easier to read a 2-page chapter than it is to read a 20-page chapter. So in some ways it helped. Really liked it. I would like to read the rest of them. A word of warning, if you choose to watch the Netflix series that's based on these books, there are spoilers. I kind of knew it was set in the future, it comes back to Mary Ann Singleton when she's in her 50s, but yeah, there were a lot of plot points that I sort of wondered where they were going to go in this one, and then they were just out and out exploded in the Netflix episode. So never mind, I'll still enjoy the books. And then my buddy reads. So I've got 2 buddy reads this month on top of War and Peace, which you can see resting here, and we are almost, I think, 3 weeks away from finishing War and Peace, so that's exciting. I am reading Turf or Stone by Margiad Evans with Sean from Sean the Bookmaniac and Ange from Beyond the Pages. This is we read Country Dance together, God, I think it was about 6 months ago, and I'd already read it, but I re-loved it and they loved it too, which was awesome. I don't know what to expect from this one. This is another kind of set in a small town. I think it begins with a bride being pushed into a forced wedding, but I don't think it's actually set in... Oh, it's in the border. Margiad Evans conjures up a tempestuous and sometimes sinister world of rural and small town border life in the early 20th century. I think it's going to be quite gothic, actually, and I'm excited to read it because I love Country Dance, and I've never actually read, apart from those short stories, I've never read her other stuff, so this is going to be good. And I'm also buddy reading the library book by Susan Orlean with Sian of Shani Read. Oh, actually, Sian's in this buddy read as well. Sorry, Sian. Sian came into the buddy read sort of at the last minute, but she's very much in it. Oops. We are reading just with each other, no one else. We are reading the library book by Susan Orlean, and we are already 5 chapters in. We're trying to do it in a week, so we're doing 5 chapters a day-ish, and it is madly good. Wow. It's exactly what I was hoping for, and I'm so pleased. So the premise of this is that Susan Orlean moves to Los Angeles. She goes to the Central Library, and then she hears about how the library burned down. And was it in the 70s? I feel like it was the 70s. Oh no, 80s. And she kind of goes on a semi-detective sort of hunt to figure out who it was, because no one was ever actually charged with the crime, to figure out who it was. And she's basically using it as a vehicle to talk about books and reading. What more could you want? So already I feel nostalgic for libraries. I've been into one today, but I just want to be in one all the time when I'm reading this. And both me and Charles want to be librarians now. Then the other two books that I've kind of got on the go, because having said all of this time that I've been doing videos that I only read one book at a time, I've just started to not be that person, and I'm a little bit scared. So they're two quite different books. One is Trans Like Me, A Journey for All of Us by C.N. Lester. And this I bought with a pile, actually some of them are down here, of other books about trans experience. It was, again, sort of fitting in with Pride Month. A lot of book sites had offers on those books, so I got these off of Hive Books, which is the book site where you can donate some of the proceeds to a small bookshop of your choice. And I'm about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way through, coming up to a quarter, and it's awesome. C.N. Lester prefers they pronouns, and I have to say, so far they've enlightened me so much. What I knew in principle, which was just generally that I fully accept and support people who are trans in any way, and C.N. Lester does a great job of showing you all the different ways you can be trans. I don't actually know very much, in the sense I've never read anybody's experience. I literally have educated myself through Instagram and maybe the odd newspaper article and Bitch magazine. And I think I needed more. I definitely needed more in order to be fully educated and be the best ally that I can be for anybody in my life that might go down this road. So this is awesome. Everything about it so far has just really opened my eyes. I've done lots of underlining, which is always a good sign. So that one's sort of on the go. And then really off my usual track for books is an Eckhart Tolle book. And yeah, this is a classic book that in my 20s I would have just scoffed at. I wouldn't even have wanted to shelve it. Anything in the self-help section was just not interesting to me. I would have looked at the philosophy section. Hell yeah, I would have looked at the science section, might have looked at psychology, but not self-help. Just wouldn't have been my thing. And I don't know what's happened. I think I've just grown and realised that the subject is not, beneath me, and actually there's some really good books in it. So this was recommended by Shan. She did this in a video anyway, but we also have been having some conversations outside of booktube, and she's been recommending me some awesome books to do meditation and things like that, because my anxiety has just gone sky high in the last couple of weeks. I mean, it's always up and down, but in particular the last couple of weeks, really, really bad. So and that just changes day by day. So I can't even remember if in my last video I said I was doing well, but I'm not doing well. So she's been awesome, and she has helped me out, and she sort of recommended a few things that I just felt I could centre myself on. This one wasn't something she recommended for anxiety, but I saw it on her video and something about it just appealed to me. It might be just the colour, because I do like the colour yellow, so maybe that was what drew me to it. But so far, the first bit has been really good, and he's talked about flowers and beauty, and he's trying to imagine the first time a flower bloomed on the planet Earth and the way that would have changed the whole landscape. And then he goes forward to when humans were walking the planet Earth and what it would have been like for the first human to have appreciated a flower for its beauty, and would that have been the first thing that a human would have, would it have been one of the first objects in that world of those early humans that somebody would have gone looking at just for the sake of looking at it and recognizing its beauty? And I found that really cool. So I like it. And I'm not very far in. I'm literally like a chapter in. But I'll let you know. And so actually there's a bit of a, yeah, I obviously do like yellow. That one's a bit of a, that doesn't match. But let's put this one up here, look. There we go, look. Maybe it's a colour thing and that's how I'm choosing books now. Okay, so there are some new books over there underneath some of the old ones. So I might do a book haul video at some point. But that's it from me. So yes, thank you so much for your tips. And I might do the reading rush week. I don't know. It's a bit late, isn't it? Because it's already started. But Sian's doing it over at Shiny Reads. So go and have a look at hers. And I'll just stick to just trying to plod along and read as much as I can. Okay, I'm going to go. I hope you're all really well. And let me know if you've read any of these books, especially the library book. That's the one I feel like that's going to be a good one. Okay, bye.